China is their brothers.
It's being dubbed a game changer to Pakistan's economic and political future, a revival of the old Silk Road trade route. With more than $50 billion in investments, this is China's biggest overseas splurge in history, with the building of power plants, highways, and ports all across the land.
It's a Chinese revolution in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan as we traverse the length of this gigantic economic collaboration of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor.
But before that lies the disputed Kashmir region, political instability, and terrorism before China can connect its Xinjiang province to the warm waters of the Arabian Sea. The Iron Brother relationship between Pakistan and China, a startling new economic offensive by Beijing, which is transforming forever the economic and political balance of South Asia.
Beijing says the One Belt, One Road is a project of the century, a Chinese-built infrastructure plan that is remaking South Asia. And the Islamic Republic of Pakistan is at the heart of it.
Chinese Premier Xi Jinping and Pakistani President Mamnoon Hussein inked Beijing's flagship project in 2014. Called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it's a long-term plan to upgrade Pakistan's roads, railways, and power generation and revive its stagnating economy. Despite years of terror-stricken violence and political instability, Pakistan is now being transformed on a massive scale. Higher than the Himalayas, deeper than the seas, and sweeter than the sweetest honey. This is how China's friendship has been eulogized by the Pakistani state. And China's new economic footprint here changes everything. It's dotted with massive Chinese infrastructure projects. We begin our journey at the supreme legislative body of Pakistan, the parliament. The strategic relationship between the two countries is decades old. Senator Mushahid Hussain Saeed is well aware of China's historical importance to Pakistan.
You must see this photograph of mine with President Xi Jinping. This was on 21st April 2015 when President Xi Jinping came. He gave me a special award.
As chairman of Pakistan's Parliamentary Committee on the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Mushahid oversees all Chinese-backed projects in the country.
You look very elegant, thank you so much. It started off as a project, and this is the largest comprehensive project between any two countries since World War II. $46 billion for 15 years, from 2015 to 2030. So it's a strategic project. There's investment in energy, there is government-to-government relationship in infrastructure, and special industrial zone being established. So at the same time, in the history of Pakistan, such a scale of projects taken concurrently is something unique and unprecedented. Next 10 to 15 years, we expect that over 500,000 jobs will be generated. It will add to Pakistan's 17% or 20% to our GDP, and also it will spur at least 2 to 3% in a growth rate.
Trade in this region goes back thousands of years. We drive 600 kilometers to Altit, a town that sprang up along the old Silk trade route more than 1,000 years ago. According to legend, Altit was previously known as Hunukushal, meaning the village of Huns. The Huns came from the Huanghe Valley in China for trade with the Middle East hundreds of years ago.
This village was surrounded by a huge wall with 11 siege towers.
Javed has been a tourist guide and historian in Altit for the last 25 years.
The prehistory of Silk Route is 3,000 years. Caravans of Silk Route travel from here towards Gilgit, from Gilgit to Astor, from Astor to Srinagar, and then they will go to India. This was the shortest route of caravans. They were used donkey and horses, and in some areas they were used camels. But for the high altitudes, they were used yak.
Languages, expertise, artistic and scientific skills were discussed and traded right here as they still are today. As maritime routes emerged, this ancient silk route near Altit lost its importance and fell into neglect. Until Chinese Premier Xi Jinping announced $47 billion worth of projects over the next 15 years. This is China's biggest overseas investment ever. The development of port cities like Gwadar has been likened to that of the Marshall Plan undertaken by the United States in post-war Europe. From special economic zones in the south near Gwadar, it aims to industrialize large swaths of Pakistan, building logistical channels northwards to the Chinese city of Kashgar. The industrialization of all Pakistani provinces over the next 10 years aims to improve and develop logistical corridors, establish business centers, and explore resources that can connect to the southern Chinese province of Xinjiang. In return, the Chinese are planning to reduce their dependency on the South China Sea for 80% of their trade from the Middle East by cutting the travel time by 15 days or 2,000 miles. And the backbone of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is this road, the Karakoram Highway. We drive from Islamabad on the Karakoram Highway, or KKH, up north towards China, a 1,300-kilometer road known as the eighth wonder of the world. The KKH was built by Chinese and Pakistani workers from 1959 and completed 20 years later, locking these neighbors into a strategic alliance in the region. Above 4,700 meters, the construction was undertaken in a treacherous terrain. Nearly 900 Pakistani and Chinese workers died building this strategic road. Many of them were buried here at the Chinese cemetery in Gilgit.
1966 से लेकर 78 तक जितने बंदे मतलब 110 बंदे मरे थे उनमें से 88 बंदे यहाँ पे मिले बाकी के 22 बंदे कोई दरिया में गया है कोई पत्थर के नीचे आया है ये चाइना से आया है सर चाइना के लिए हमारे लिए चाइना हमारे लिए बहुत अहम है सर उन लोगों ने हमें मतलब अच्छे खासे रोड बना के दिए जहाँ हम 24 घंटे में जा रहे थे अभी वहाँ पे 18-20 घंटे में बंदा पहुँचा हम मतलब बहुत मशहूर है चाइना के
Pakistanis today remember their sacrifices. With the Karakoram Highway, Xinjiang and mainland Pakistan remain connected all year round for trade despite heavy snowfalls. Due to this all-weather friendship, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has given hope to people like Majid.
सर ये सी पैक के हवाले से तो बहुत ही अच्छा हो रहा है अभी मतलब यहाँ से ट्रेन की बतरी बीच आएगी मतलब उधर से सी पैक बंद हुआ मतलब आएगा तो मतलब काफ़ी लोगों के लिए मतलब रोजगारियाँ मतलब खुली रहेगी यहाँ पे
A beacon of this hope is the Sos dry port in the north, the entry point into Pakistan from China. Established in 1985, it's the first trading port for all passengers and cargo entering from China. 100 kilometers from the Chinese border, this trading port will be bustling with activity once CPEC is fully developed. Businessmen like Aziz Ahmad can already feel the difference. His goods have just arrived from China.
I'm one of the importers who go to China or send their people to China. They go to different cities, to Guangzhou, to Urumqi. They buy the consumer goods from there according to the volume of their own investment. Chinese containers basically bring it here. They offload all the goods here. People from the custom, of course, examine it. They calculate the duties. And then we clear our goods from here, from this port. We load them back in Pakistani trucks and we head back to our destination. This dry port can accommodate the volume of trade that we expect from CPEC, because it has been estimated that almost 7,000 containers will come from China under CPEC when the whole project is completed. So if we calculate our past capacity of this port, we hardly receive 2,000 to 3,000 containers during a whole year.
Sost is not just a strategic port for Pakistan, but also for the region.
क्योंकि ये वाहिद रूट है ईजीएस्ट एक्सेस के हवाले से कि आपको चाइना के लिए एक्सेस दे रहा है आपके ग्वादर तक, और ग्वादर से फिर आगे आपको मालूम है मिडिल ईस्ट के कंट्रीज और फिर इवन यूरोपियन कंट्रीज तक जो है ना एक ईजी एक्सेस है चाइना के लिए। और फिर इसमें जो बात हो रही है कि पीछे से जो सेंट्रल एशियन कंट्रीज हैं दे आर आल्सो इंटरेस्टेड कि इस सी पैक का जो है ना वो हिस्सा बने, तो डेफिनेटली ये जो बातें हो रही है गेम चेंजर की फॉर पाकिस्तान एज वेल एज फॉर चाइना।
Due to the Karakoram Highway development, goods from China that earlier took weeks can now reach Islamabad in less than a day. And locals estimate that a Chinese truck is expected to pass along the Karakoram Highway every 50 seconds. The route is helping retailers like Malik Naeem back in Islamabad. Having worked in this business for 13 years, Naeem has a reason to rejoice with the opening up of the borders under CPEC.
ये दुनिया के 45 कंट्रीज में इंपोर्ट होता है चैंगोंग के नाम से। चाइना का नंबर 1 ब्रांड है, तो उस पे क्या होगा कि एडवांटेज क्या होगा कि ड्यूटीज ऑफ कोर्स जो है वो कम हो जाएगी। जिस तरह पहले इंपोर्ट हो रहा था तो वो चीजें डिले होता था, टाइम पीरियड का फर्क पड़ेगा, ड्यूटीज का फर्क पड़ेगा। तो जब चीजें ड्यूटीज का फर्क पड़ेगा ऑफ कोर्स उसका जो फैक्ट आता है वो प्राइसेस पे आता है। प्राइस कम होगी तो ऑफ कोर्स फिर कस्टमर की जो है वो अप्रोच लेवल बढ़ेगा, परचेजिंग पावर बढ़ जाएगी। आज जो कस्टमर सपोज वो प्लान करता है 6 महीने में 1 टीवी, हो सकता है तब वो 6 महीने में 4 टीवी प्लान करे, तो वो ऑफ कोर्स बिजनेस तो इम्प्रूव हो गई होगा उससे। लेकिन जो सबसे बड़ी जो मुझे एडवांटेज नजर आता है ना, किसी भी मुल्क का किसी दूसरे मुल्क के साथ जो आपस में एक रिलेशन होता है वो बड़ा स्ट्रांग हो जाता है।
The rise in Chinese investments is changing the perception of Pakistan as a business-friendly country.
I think already Pakistan's image as a country which is infested with terrorism, violence, I think that has changed or is changing as an investor-friendly destination. Second, it is already spurring growth in Pakistan. 5.3, the highest growth in the last 10 years.
But the sudden rise in Chinese imports by Pakistani businessmen is causing concern within the country too. Pakistan's trade deficit with its largest trading partner China widened to $6.2 billion in 2016.
डेफिनेटली ये फेयर तो है। अगर एक्सपोर्ट्स की बात करें तो इक्विवेलेंसी बिल्कुल भी नहीं है। इवन जो हमारे पाक कस्टम्स के ऑफिशियल्स हैं वहाँ से भी एक डेटा ले लें तो आपको क्लियर पता चलेगा कि बिल्कुल यानी कि एक अपोजिट डायरेक्शन में जा रहा है कि अगर हार्डली 1% 2% एक्सपोर्ट हो रहा है।
And that's not the only concern. The Karakoram Highway is central to CPEC's success, but can fall prey to Mother Nature. An earthquake in 2010 led to an entire mountainside falling into the Hunza River and destroying part of the Karakoram Highway. The Chinese stepped in to the rescue. There's been an avalanche of Chinese investments across Pakistan in rail, ports, construction, and energy. And I'm traveling on the Karakoram Highway, a land route to be used by the Chinese to connect Xinjiang to Gwadar Port in the south. It's a highway that's been struck by natural calamities. In 2010, an earthquake pushed an entire mountain into the Hunza River, blocking it permanently. The landslide killed 20 people at this village of Atabad and displaced 6,000 people in Gojal village on the Karakoram Highway. The Pakistan Army was called in to clear the blockage, but failed despite all the heavy machinery. The river swelled into a lake now called the Atabad Lake. Yasir remembers those days as he takes us to his former home on a wooden boat.
बेसिकली अगर हम बात करें तो स्टार्टिंग में ये इस तरह का जो नहीं है वो निज़ाम नहीं था। 4 जनवरी 2010
से पहले यहाँ पे जो नहीं है बहुत खूबसूरत गांव, चहल पहल, बच्चे यहाँ पे जो नहीं है एक आबादी वाला इलाका था। लोग जो नहीं है बड़े खुशहाल थे यहाँ पे। उसके बाद आप देख रहे हैं पानी है और वीरानी है यहाँ पे।
Pakistan and China had no road connection for 5 months as the lake continued to expand. Wooden boats costing $40 a trip were the only way to cross the lake to maintain trade and communication. The ferries were not designed to carry cargo like this, and the trips were full of risk. This very basic means of transportation caused delays, leading to a hike in commodity prices.
जिस दिन ये हादसा हुआ उस दिन जो नहीं KKH ब्लॉक हो गया, फिर पानी का जो नहीं है लेवल जो नहीं बढ़ता गया। सो हमारा जो वाहिद ज़रिया था आमद रफ्त का सेंट्रल, जहाँ से हमारे जो बेसिक ज़रूरियात की चीज़ें लाई जाती थी वो ब्लॉक हो गया। फिर उसके बाद जो नहीं है किश्तियों का एक निज़ाम शुरू हो गया। बहुत जो नहीं है स्लो किश्तियाँ, ये जो आप देख रहे हैं इन्हीं में हम लोग सफ़र करते थे। और जो ये बोट सर्विस की वजह से ऐसा भी हुआ है कि भाई यहाँ पे औरतों की डिलीवरी भी जो नहीं है इनसाइड द बोट जो नहीं है हुआ है।
The Chinese were called in to rebuild the Karakoram Highway, this time cutting directly through the mountains. In less than 2 years, a series of tunnels were carved through the treacherous terrain. In partnership with Pakistan's National Highway Authority and the China Road and Bridge Corporation, today they are known as the Pakistan-China Friendship Tunnels. What used to take an hour to cross by boat now takes only 5 minutes. Yasir and his family now live near the lake in their makeshift home. They can now enjoy a meal without paying exorbitant prices to the boat riders. Another direct result from these tunnels has been a rise in tourism in the mountainous region. 600,000 local and international tourists visited Pakistan's northern mountains in 2016. A lack of basic infrastructure, however, is hampering growth. As night falls in Gilgit, the hub of tourism, blackouts ranging from 8 to 10 hours are the norm. And Afzal, a hotelier, feels the full brunt of the impact.
ज़ाहिर है ये तो शुरू से ऐसा ना कि अगर मैंने जैसा अर्ज किया प्लानिंग ना होने की वजह से ये क्राइसिस तो है बिजली की, तो इससे ज़ाहिर है सिर्फ हमारा नहीं पूरे इस शहर का जो है कारोबार है ना वो मुतासिर हो रहा है। अभी टूरिज़म जो है वो एक वाहिद सेगमेंट हमारे पास है कि जिससे हम जो है जनाब अपने इकॉनमी को मजबूत कर सकते हैं, लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट एक्टिविटीज़ जो है ना माशी तौर पर वो हो रहा है। लेकिन इसको मज़ीद बेहतर करने के लिए जो है जनाब बेसिक जो चीज़ें हैं जैसे लाइट है, पानी है, इस तरीके से और बहुत सारे जो बुनियादी चीज़ें हैं इनका होना ज़रूरी है, लेकिन इस पर अभी तक कोई ख़ास तौर पर अमल दरामद नहीं हो रही है।
But there's a new sun rising in Pakistan. Private companies from China are tapping into the country's energy potential with $11 billion of investments to satisfy the demand. Under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, power plants producing 10,000 megawatts of electricity are being installed in nuclear, coal, and hydro-powered stations across the nation. Gilgit's potential in hydropower is unmatched due to the fast-flowing Hunza River.
Gilgit-Baltistan is the water bank for the rest of the country because, our area is more than 72,000 square kilometers and more than 27% of this catchment area consists of glaciers, which is the biggest concentration of glaciers outside polar regions. So overall, we have a capacity of more than 60,000 megawatts of hydropower potential. The phenomena of CPEC is that most of the projects are in B2B mode. The Chinese business community comes to Pakistan and invests in collaboration with the business community of Pakistan. In renewable energies, hydropower is the most desirable one because it is clean, it does not have carbon emissions. However, one-time investment is huge.
Hydro plants in difficult mountainous terrains are being built. The Naltal power plant is an 18-megawatt plant that feeds off the vast energy potential of the northern Pakistani region. Chief Engineer Ghulam Murtaza is confident of the growing collaboration with the Chinese in the power sector.
कमर्शियल जो इसकी जो जनरेशन जो है वो 3 जनवरी 2017 से शुरू हुई है। शुरू के हफ्ते में 1 एंड देन 2 यूनिट और 3 जनवरी 2016 से 17 से ये 3 यूनिट्स अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह चल रहे हैं। जो हमारे जो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स थे इस प्रोजेक्ट को बनाने के लिए वो मैसर्स क्लिक थे, जॉइंट वेंचर में इनके साथ हबीब रफ़ीक साहब थे लाहौर के। तो ये मैसर्स क्लिक के इनके प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर हैं, ये क्लिक को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं यहाँ पे। इस वक्त जो इसकी जॉइंट ऑपरेशन है ये चाइनीज़ प्लस हमारे स्टाफ के साथ है। ये इनके साथ जो एग्रीमेंट हुआ उसमें ये है कि डिफेक्ट लायबिलिटी पीरियड के दरमियान में ये हमारे स्टाफ को ट्रेन भी करेंगे 1 साल के अरसे में, और जब हैंड ओवर करेंगे तो हमारे स्टाफ इसको बखूबी चला सके।
More than 35,000 people in Gilgit will get power from this particular power plant.
When you are going to convert this Chinese language into English?
我什么时候把这个汉语换成英语啊？这个语言呢？
很快就会切换，中英文切换的。
可以是吧？
对，可以。
Yes, anytime you can change. Yes.
Ghulam is working closely with a private Chinese company whose workers are monitoring its development.
在巴基斯坦这个期间，我感觉到非常好，也感觉到了政府和当地人民对我们的大力支持，和对我们工作的认可。困难还是有的，就是肯定会遇到很多就是地质条件的灾害啊，还有恶劣环境各方面的问题，这些我们都努力的克服了，在当地人民和政府的帮助下，对中国公司也是一是一个挑战，二是一个非常大的一个机遇。
Pakistan remains a solid market for private Chinese companies with the advent of CPEC. But the security challenges in the troubled province of Baluchistan are immense, none more so than for the jewel of the Chinese investment in Pakistan, the new megaport city of Gwadar. China's economic corridor is transforming Pakistan's stagnant economy. It's taking $50 billion to do just that. It's one of the fastest and the biggest project on the One Belt, One Road initiative.
China has now the world's second biggest economy and is growing at a fast pace. It's almost 7% per year. So if you look at the map of the world, if China is importing energy from the Middle East, from Africa, you're talking of going through the Straits of Malacca, you're going through the South China Sea to Shanghai to Tianjin. It's about 9,000 kilometers. If you go through Gwadar, then it's about 3,000 kilometers. So you have slashed it by 2/3. So number one is easy access.
The larger goal is a framework of regional connectivity through trade amongst countries. And the jewel of this economic crown is Gwadar. Launched with much fanfare by former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, Gwadar is undergoing rapid development. China leased the port for 40 years, and 91% of the revenue generated will head back to Beijing. There are benefits to Pakistan, too. From being a fishing village 15 years ago, it is now estimated that the Gwadar port development will create 700,000 jobs. Its geostrategic importance is crucial. The rapid progress in developing the megaport has been eyed with concern by India. It has forged a rival $20 billion plan with Iran to expand Iran's Chabahar port, 100 kilometers along the coast.
The basic issue is that India sees itself as a sort of a rival, and they would try to play that role. India is today where China was 15 years ago. So there's a sea change, this big yawning chasm between India's level of development and China's development. China is decades ahead of India. So I think instead of trying to compete unnecessarily, they should be part of that compatibility. So what's the problem with India? So you see a whole new opportunity is opening up. And if you link Gwadar with Chabahar in Iran, with Hambantota in Sri Lanka, in Kyakpo in Myanmar. So you can see that a whole new world is opening up of connectivity.
Gwadar is expected to attract $3 trillion of trade per year due to Chinese imports. It's sitting on the face of the Straits of Hormuz, the busiest oil trading route in the world. The development of Gwadar has been inspired by the Singapore model.
I took the parliamentary committee on the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor on a visit to China. And I especially asked that we should go to Suzhou, which is the first industrial park between Singapore and China. And that was established in 1990s after the visit of Deng Xiaoping to Singapore. And he had a meeting with Lee Kuan Yew, and that he was so inspired by that. And he felt that this is the way forward. So they established the first industrial park in China was with Singapore. And Singapore is a good model because Singapore has no natural resources. Singapore has human resources. And Pakistan's strength is also is human capital. And that is what we want to focus on.
A major difference between the two countries, though, lies in the security challenges the province of Balochistan poses. Balochistan is the least developed province in Pakistan, despite its rich mineral resources. Islamabad has exploited that mineral wealth, but the province remains underdeveloped. It has led to 5 armed uprisings by local ethnic groups since the territory joined Pakistan in 1948. Addressing Chinese fears, the Pakistan Army has raised a 15,000-strong CPEC force to protect its engineers and investments.
The importance of maritime domain, which includes sea and its approaches, is critical to safe operationalization of CPEC. It is in this framework that raising of Task Force 88 for maritime security of the CPEC finds its anchorage.
The remaining land route is to be patrolled and policed by a CPEC force with more than 300 police officials currently being hired in the Gilgit region. Officer Johar is one such officer, protecting a section of the Karakoram Highway as Chinese containers pass through it. At least 25 such CPEC patrol vehicles have been given to Gilgit police by China Aid. They are to ensure the safe and smooth flow of traffic day and night on the 439-kilometer chunk of the CPEC route in Gilgit.
अभी इस वक्त हम फर्स्ट स्टॉप में खड़े हैं CPEC 5 पेट्रोलिंग करते हैं हमारी ड्यूटी है CPEC पेट्रोल हमारे साथ 9 बंदे हैं ड्यूटी पे टोटल सुबह 6 बजे से रात 10 बजे तक हमारी ड्यूटी होती है सुबह 6 से 2 बजे तक एक शिफ्ट 2 बजे से रात 10 बजे तक एक शिफ्ट इस तरह हम ड्यूटी करते हैं इसका तो चाइना में जो कंटेनर आते हैं यहाँ पे इनका हम ड्यूटी करते हैं इनके साथ जो भी पंजाब से जो भी मेहमान आते हैं इनके लिए कोई मसला मसाइल हो गया तो हम उनको वो करते हैं रोड पे जो भी गाड़ियाँ ख़राब होते हैं उनका हम हेल्प करते हैं इसी ये हमारी ड्यूटी है ये गाड़ी चाइना से आए है चाइना ने पाकिस्तान को दिया है तो इसी रोड के हवाले से केश के हवाले से इसके ड्यूटी के लिए चाइना ने दिया है पाकिस्तान को तो ये हमारे लिए फ़ायदा है
With an increase in Chinese influence, a cultural exchange is underway in Pakistan too. This is Roots, a private school in the federal capital of Islamabad. From classes 1 to 10, students attend compulsory Mandarin classes with the aim of familiarizing them with the next big economy.
中文中文英文法文课
In 2016, 3,500 Pakistani students studied in China, making Pakistan the country with the largest number of scholarship students studying in China. Mona, the head of the Chinese language school, is upbeat about this exchange of cultures.
We have a collaboration with CRI, Confucius Institute. In fact, we are the first official Confucius classroom in Pakistan. We've got about 12 full-time teachers who are teaching Chinese language to the students. And at the moment, there are 8,500 students learning this language. So yes, there is a lot of future for these students. When it comes to the working environment, when they're going to get into their practical lives, they'll be able to work in Pakistan because of the CPAC and because, Chinese people, there are many Huawei and such Chinese companies working around. So students will have all the opportunities to work in Pakistan as well as in China.
Mandarin teacher Yang came to Islamabad 2 years ago from Sichuan to teach Mandarin to Pakistani students.
I have been teaching these kids for almost 2 years. And first of all, I want to say the Pakistani people are extremely friendly to Chinese people, because every time when you go outside, they will say, "Oh, Chinese, Chinese." Yes, and there is Zindahbad, Pak-China friendship, a long life Pak-China friendship. And I think the kids also have a very good desire to learn Chinese. Every time we don't have Chinese class every day. But many times students will find me, come to teach us, I want to learn Chinese, yes.
Shemaim, a grade 7 student, is one of the brightest Mandarin students at the school.
你好，我叫 Shemaim Shahid， 我是Roots Millennium 的学生，今年16岁了。 We're learning Chinese. It's the language of the 21st century, and I think it's important, and it's a really big opportunity for all of us kids over here that we are able to have such a good staff through which we can learn proper dialect of Chinese, Because China is the next big deal, America, okay, great. Any other country, great, But China is their brothers, To be very frank. They're neighbors, they're brothers, and they've, been very helpful for the country too, very close. The ties are good as well, so definitely. And the people are great too. The food is great as well.
Along with Mandarin, students at Roots School are exposed to Chinese arts and performances as well.
You have to breathe naturally, okay?
Along with Yang, Chinese language teachers have been living and working in Islamabad for years.
I think it's very comfortable, yes. Now more and more Chinese people are coming to Pakistan to investment, to visit, to travel, yes, to do many other things. And I also saw many Pakistani people going to China.
And the teachers feel safe despite the common perception of Pakistan to the contrary. They drive us back to their apartment for a little cooking session.
Spicy. To your taste, very spicy. They feel comfortable living here, so then more Chinese come in. Now, after these teachers, there are more teachers coming in just because they know that, they're living safe over here, they have a good environment, they have a good stay.
But a rise in Chinese cultural influence is having a damaging effect on Pakistan's own heritage. In the 5,000-year-old city of Lahore, a mass transit metro project is threatening the very heritage of Pakistan itself.
If this train is allowed to go ahead, UNESCO has said that this building will fall within 6 years.
Scores of power projects have been inked. Thousands of miles of roads are being built. The Chinese have arrived in Pakistan with their customary trademark style. Billions of dollars worth of energy and infrastructure are being constructed by Chinese firms. And the Chinese are growing their footprint with each passing day. I've arrived in the city of Lahore, known as the heart of Pakistan and a city of 10 million. Its people are vibrant, colorful, but a lack of functional public transport system has transformed this city of gardens into one big traffic jam. Enter the Chinese, Pakistan's first ever metro train. A $1.6 billion gift from the people of China is being built at breakneck speed. In less than 2 years, the project will have built 26 stations. Hamad, the project director and the local partner for this Chinese finance CPEC project, is excited.
हाँ, फिर अब तो ऑलमोस्ट एग्जीक्यूशन भी उसकी 70% प्लस पूरे प्रोजेक्ट की हो चुकी है और इस पूरे जो 4 पैकेजेस इसमें हम जो एक डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज को जो उनके सिटीजन्स को जो सहूलतें हैं ट्रांसपोर्टेशन की वो कोशिश की गई है कि वो उस लेवल पे उनको ये दिए जाएं। अब ये इस बेसिकली इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रेन है जो इस पे मूव करेगी और इस पे जो टेक्निकलिटीज जो है सारी वो चाइना से विजन था उसको फिर पाकिस्तानी जो मैन पावर इंजीनियरिंग है उसकी कोलैबोरेशन से हम कर रहे हैं। सिविल वर्क्स जो है वो पाकिस्तान कर रहा है और वो जो इलेक्ट्रिकल मैकेनिकल वर्क्स हैं वो चाइनीज या नोरिंको कर रही है।
Chinese firms Norinco designed and constructed the metro system with the help of Habib Construction and the Lahore Development Authority. It's an early bird CPEC project nearing completion, and the Pakistanis are truly impressed by it.
ये दो नेशंस की आपस में कोलैबोरेशन थी। स्टार्ट में बंदे के डिफरेंट थॉट होते हैं कि शायद ये सोशली डिफरेंट बैकग्राउंड से आ रहे हैं तो कुछ कॉम्प्लिकेशंस आएंगी, मगर जैसे जैसे दिन गुजरते गए हैं कोलैबोरेशन बढ़ती गई। हमने इसको डेली बेसिस पे मीटिंग्स की तो इससे ना सिर्फ रोज़ाना मिलने से हमारे एक जो आपस में एक ख्यालात है कि पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा, वो एक मिथ थी जो ख़त्म हुई और उससे ना सिर्फ मिलने से ज़ुबान के बैरियर्स से भी कोई मसला नहीं हुआ, काम में हम आसानियाँ ही आती गई आज तक।
The train running on these tracks is made in Hunan province.
इसकी अहमियत यह है कि इस लेवल का मैस ट्रांजिट प्रोजेक्ट पाकिस्तान में पहला किसी आई थिंक इवन साउथ एशिया में भी इस क्वालिटी ऑफ वर्क जो है और क्वांटिटी में भी ऐसा नहीं हुआ। मेट्रो बस सर्विस तो पाकिस्तान में शुरू हो चुकी है, मगर उसमें भी देखें ऑलमोस्ट उसकी कैपेसिटी जो है वो 1 लाख, 1.25 लाख या मैक्सिमम 1.5 लाख होगी। जो ये ट्रेन सर्विस है ये आपको 2.5 लाख डेली से ज़्यादा पैसेंजर्स को ट्रेवल करवाएगी और इसके अलावा जो क्वालिटी ऑफ सर्विस होगी वो भी एट बेस्ट होगी। वो जो आप इसको जो यूरोप के एडवांस कंट्रीज वहाँ पे या इवन दुबई वगैरह में उनसे किसी भी तरह कंपेयर करें तो ये काम नहीं होगी।
The focus has been on hardware projects like the Lahore Metro. Complications arose when the Lahore Conservation Movement moved the Lahore High Court to stop the project from destroying Lahore's rich Mughal cultural heritage. Chaburji, meaning 4 towers, is a 16th century Mughal-era building that lies on the route of the metro train. Activist Imrana Tiwana claims the Punjab state government launched the project in haste without altering the route to protect the historical icon from train vibrations.
If this train is allowed to go ahead, UNESCO has said that this building will fall within 6 years.
Imrana Tiwana claims the metro passes less than 200 feet from protected heritage sites, a blatant violation of Pakistani law.
This project is a national disaster, and I speak only on technical terms and I will talk about the facts. It is passing through the densest heritage zones of the city, and it is threatening to cause irreversible and permanent damage to the heritage of Lahore. Lahore will be dead. I think we can write the epitaph. This project is violating all the local laws and the UNESCO Convention, which is really a great humiliation for Pakistan. It is threatening over 40 heritage sites. We call it a heritage zone where the train is passing. I think there are 2 very distinct laws, the Special Premises Preservation Ordinance and the Antiquities Act. Both of them explicitly say that there can be no construction of any kind. In fact, you can't even put a banner or a nail up within 200 feet of any antiquities site or a special premises.
The Lahore High Court has stopped all construction of the metro close to the heritage sites until the case is settled. Khwaja Hassan, the head of Punjab state government's metro project, says he's done everything he can to placate the concerns of the activists.
The issues which have cropped up, as you know, is because of the certain heritage buildings, heritage points, where we are in the courts. We are, defending our side because we strongly feel that heritage is very important. And our government, our chief executive, has been very focused on this, that we have to take care of our heritage points. Our focus has been on public mass transit. And the purpose is it's very obvious. See, with the growing population, with the growing need of more transportation, this was one of the focuses of our government. Everywhere in the world, wherever you go to Rome or any of the major cities, which are old, ancient cities, they do have heritage, but they do have a very, very massive mass transit system. And they're all moving and going all about it just next to the heritage points. So they've done it and they've achieved it. So we are facing this challenge because it's happening for the first time in Pakistan's history. So it's a very challenging task, and we are grateful to the government of China for providing us great assistance on this.
The delay in construction is causing losses to both the Chinese and their Pakistani counterparts, which raises the question of financing. Building a $1.6 billion train in a country where people find it difficult to eat has been vehemently criticized. Financed by China's Exim Bank and undertaken by the Punjab government, expensive projects like the Lahore Metro may lead Pakistan into a debt trap with China. Former Finance Minister Salman Shah is cautious about how prepared Pakistan is for the scale of development deals it is now committing to.
Financing is going to be tough, but I think it can be managed provided we negotiate the terms of the agreements very well and are able to get the financing which is competitive but not expensive. So I think that should be the nature of the agreements. And I think from even the two governments' perspective, they would probably like that also. But to my mind, we as Pakistanis have not yet been able to articulate the full dimensions of CPEC, how important it is to our overall national economic development and economic strategy. We have not yet integrated it into our decision-making processes and planning processes and involvement of the private sector fully into this.
Apart from trade and connectivity, there's a larger issue for Chinese investors in Pakistan: political instability. No prime minister in Pakistan's 70-year history has completed a 5-year term, and this time was no different. Former Prime Minister Sharif was disqualified from office in July 2017 by a Supreme Court verdict after he was found guilty of corruption. In a show of power to his political opponents, Sharif organized rallies like this throughout Pakistan, causing fears the country might unravel politically. A new prime minister of his own party was quickly elected to quell any fears.
I think that Nawaz will fight it politically. Completely, he will fight politically.
Talit Hussain, a television presenter of GOTV and one of the foremost names of Pakistani journalism, doesn't find Prime Minister Sharif's ousting alarming to the Chinese.
A prime minister has been deposed through a judicial verdict, and he is protesting against that verdict. But you don't see any violence on the streets. There are elections around the corner in 2018, maybe called early. So there's a lot of political hyperactivity, but it has remained within the bounds of the constitution. So that way it's stable, and all the parties that are locking horns, They agreed on CPEC. I mean, there's no disagreement on CPEC. We are a deceptive nation in the sense that what appears may not be the case. You know, when we look kind of down and out, somehow we bounce back. When we look kind of all hyped up, we're actually cool as cucumbers. But without sort of blowing our own trumpet, I think Pakistan is a country whose geography has taken it to various directions. We also now realize that the same geography can be harnessed to become a trade route, to become an export and import zone, to become a pathway through which the world's commerce actually passes. I think that's where we are headed towards. If that were to happen, and that's why CPEC is important, I think we have a fairly interesting future that lies ahead. Interesting in the American sense, not in the Chinese sense.
Tonight marks the 70th year of Pakistan's independence from India, despite many wars with them. Children, men, and women are out in the streets to celebrate.
It's a young nation with more than 75% under the age of 25, and it has been marked as one of the next 11 big economies to look out for.
The avalanche of Chinese investments might just do the trick for Pakistan. There are a number of major challenges to be overcome for this iron brother relationship to be fully realized economically. But the dream of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is fast becoming a reality.